Welcome to this session. I think super important topic. It's very, very pertinent no matter what your role is, no matter what you do, what vertical you're in, AI is impacting you already, right? And I think the idea is, how do we get the most value out of AI? How do we get the big benefits of AI while also making sure that as an enterprise, as an organization, we are safeguarding our data, our internal data, our intellectual property, etc. Right? So we'll talk about lots of fun stuff today. We'll go into the idea of kind of private AI and the 10 big benefits of private AI, and how that helps you make the right decisions in terms of deploying AI in your environment. All right. Before we get into all of that, just by way of introduction, my name is Himanshu Singh. I run product marketing for our AI and Kubernetes and cloud management capabilities as part of the VCF division at Broadcom. And within the session, I'm going to be joined by Shobhit Bhutani, who runs our product marketing for our the AI piece. And then also we're very fortunate to have Nicola Tan from AMD joining us, talking more about some of the partnerships that you heard announcements yesterday, right? So we'll get into all of that as we go along, right? Now, the slide that's coming up, right? Which is this one right here. You've probably seen this, I don't know, more times than you care to count. Hey, it's the lawyers, right? It's not me. So they want us to do a little bit of CYA. But I mean, the reality is we're talking about high tech. Things do change, right? So that's kind of the idea. Just so you're aware, you've probably seen some version of the slide every year at Explore and before that at VMware, right? Okay. So in terms of structure, how are we going to approach this? We'll talk about what are we seeing, what are we hearing from customers like yourselves when they're looking to deploy AI workloads, right? We'll talk about some of the announcements that we've made, the changes to private AI services, things we've announced with NVIDIA, if you didn't pay attention yesterday. And then, of course, we'll go into more detail with our expanded partnership with AMD, right? And then after that, we'll spend a bunch of time talking about kind of those 10 big benefits. In fact, I think we have Shobhit talking about a little more than that, so give you some bonus benefits as well, right? And then we'll kind of end by talking about some key use cases that we're seeing in the market and just some next steps, etc. Okay. Now, as I said, big opportunity when it comes to AI, right? McKinsey talks about the annual economic value in trillions of dollars and everything. And Gartner talks about how within the next few years, pretty much everybody's going to have some sort of implementation of AI, generative AI in their environment to be able to kind of enhance their workloads, enhance productivity, giving us and making us, I guess, more creative, more productive, faster, better, hopefully we're not going to turn into RoboCops, but we'll see, right? So with that, of course, comes challenges too. I think the biggest one is around privacy of data, privacy of your intellectual property, just specifically because when we talk about Gen AI, it does involve massive, massive amounts of your data, right? And we've already seen instances where things kind of leak into, large language models that are being used in the industry, and folks kind of made mistakes not realizing what's actually happening. A lot of times you're basically training a model that you're not aware of and how your data is being used. And so when it comes to enterprise data, that becomes a huge, huge thing in terms of how you're managing it, right? And so as we brought in kind of the idea of VMware Private AI, we really put that stake in the ground talking about how that is paramount as far as how we approach AI and how we help enterprises deploy AI. There's other things there as well. There's things like choice. This is a new field. There's so much evolution happening. You want to be using one model now, but then 6 months down the line, you realize, hey, there's something different that you want to leverage. There's multiple tools, different providers, etc. You want to make sure that the ecosystem that you're working on gives you that choice, right? And that's another key piece. As VMware, I mean, with the vSphere ecosystem has been the broadest possible. With VCF, we did the same thing. And as we think about AI, it's the exact same idea, giving you that choice and a very, very broad ecosystem to support, all sorts of platforms to make sure that you have that flexibility as your needs evolve and change, that you're not locked into one thing, okay? Cost, another big factor. I mean, deploying and running an AI workload, an AI model, all that goes into it, right? Setting it up and on an ongoing basis, inferencing, etc. There is significant cost involved. So what you also want to make sure is that the underlying infrastructure management capabilities are giving you the best kind of, TCO, best ROI on all the investments that you've made. And I mean, VMware's been in that domain for 25 years, basically getting the most ROI from your kind of hardware investments, for example, with core virtualization, with the private cloud, and with private AI as well. Right? A couple other things around performance. As you look at your GPUs, you want to make sure that those GPUs are highly utilized, right? All your AI workloads are getting the performance that they need while you're really optimizing and maximizing utilization of that hardware as well, right? And then last one is compliance, especially depending on what specific industry you're from. Compliance and regulatory stuff can be a very, very critical piece. It will be the make or break in in many cases as well. So we want to make sure that all the security and all the compliance capabilities that we've built into VCF as a platform are applicable to your AI workloads, right? So you want to basically be able to run AI workloads as just another enterprise workload on your VCF environment. Okay. So three big areas in terms of how we're delivering value with the VMware's private AI capabilities. One is, of course, as I talked about, right? It's about privacy and security, enabling that, giving you all those capabilities that VCF has, and I'm not going to go into detail of that, but there's more sessions that go into how VCF as a platform ensures and enables security, compliance, etc., and privacy of your data, essentially. The other key one is around making sure that from a cloud admin and IT admin perspective, as you look to kind of providing an environment for your data scientists, kind of building out the infrastructure, that it's simple, that's easy, it's consistent with what you already know, and you're not creating yet another silo just for your AI workloads. And that's very important, in terms of how we do things and how we're delivering value to customers. And the third one is around streamlining model deployment. So for data scientists and for the kind of the cloud consumer persona, as they build out these, these large language models, these AI workloads, we want to make sure that we're providing them all the tools that they need to be able to be successful quickly, right? Quick time to market, being able to have all the services that you need to be successful, easily available, unified, integrated with the stack. Right? Again, we do not want to create silos in this particular case. We want to make sure that you're able to treat these workloads just like you do your other critical kind of tier one enterprise workloads as well. So it's basically that, and that goes into kind of how we want to support everything on VCF. And so one of the things that we announced yesterday was about all our private AI capabilities that we've built over the last 3 years, and we had it available as an advanced service earlier with its own kind of licensing, its own price point, but we're basically making all of that available in VCF 9, right? VCF 9.0. So the idea is it simplifies this whole thing. You have one SKU, one product to look at. You don't have to do multiple licensing and all that stuff. It's simple, it's easy, and it's all available for all the cores that you have on VCF, right? So it just, by building that in, we're giving that advantage to all our VCF 9.0 customers to make sure that it's becomes super easy for them when it comes to deploying AI workloads. So just one of those things that we've talked about, and this was speculation around how much will Broadcom continue innovating and continuing adding value into the the platform. And so this is an example of how we are adding more and more value into VCF, basically. Okay. The key offering that we have in this space is our, through our collaboration with NVIDIA. Of course, we've talked about this over the years, and that's kind of the overall full stack offering, the VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. If you look at kind of that blue box, that middle layer is basically all those private AI services. There used to be a separate kind of, add-on or advanced service. It's all included in VCF at this point. And of course, you've got the NVIDIA AI Enterprise on top, providing you all the tool sets that you need on top of it in terms of NVIDIA NIMs, all the, microservices, etc., that you want to build and more. There's a whole ecosystem around it. Now, the one key thing, of course, is you still have that choice, right? So you've got these infrastructure that you have, you've got the all the performance that you get from the NVIDIA hardware and software capabilities. You still have the choice in flexibility in terms of how you want to deploy, what models you want to run, et cetera, et cetera. So that ecosystem thing is still there, right? So, and we're very, very fortunate to, continue to expand our partnership with NVIDIA. In this case, we talked about yesterday in terms of how we're bringing in support for the, the Blackwell platform GPUs, the B200, as well as the RTX Pro 6000, right? So you've got kind of lots of raw power, lots of raw performance coming in from the B200, and then also, the RTX Pro 6000 kind of brings these a lot more flexibility in terms of use cases, right? You're looking at things like visual computing, VDI, and then also kind of running AI workloads. So you could do the whole, office worker by day and vigilante by night kind of thing, where you're utilizing your GPUs for different use cases during the day and in the overnight kind of scenarios. Okay. And then from a networking perspective also, we talked about how we're bringing in support for the ConnectX-7 as well as the Bluefield 3. So the idea is, for workloads that are running like large multi-node workloads, you're now able to, get that networking performance. You're able to get all the support for things like, what's it called? The RDMA support as well as direct storage support as well, right? GPU direct storage and GPU direct RDMA, for example. So that opens up a lot of these kind of different use cases for customers that covers a variety of, capabilities. And in terms of different customers, what they're looking for, it opens up some of that stuff. In the general session, we also talked about things around GPU pass-through mode, etc. So again, the whole idea in this particular case is, VMware has always been kind of the Switzerland kind of place where we want to have the broadest ecosystem for our customers. We want to give you all the choice. We want to bring in all the best in the industry, on kind of the VCF platform, right? And our partnerships enable that as well. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do now is invite on stage Nicola Tan, who is Director of Market Development in the Enterprise AI Group at AMD. Welcome, Nicola. So, we announced this partnership yesterday, but again, it's the AMD and Broadcom and VMware with Broadcom. This is not a new partnership, right? We've been working together for a long time, and this is kind of expanding and taking that to the next level. Let's just go into a little bit more detail in terms of what we're announcing, what we announced yesterday, right? So together, we're bringing together support for the AMD Instinct MI350 series GPUs. We're working on that one. We're also kind of creating that stack for you as well, so that you're able to leverage all the AMD Enterprise AI software and that stack. And then, of course, AMD has got significant work that they've done when it comes to kind of the open ecosystem support and everything, and customers get the benefit of that as well. If you want to just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, why don't we go to the next slide here? We can talk about the architecture. Let me see. There we go. So yeah, I've been personally working with the VMware team for the last several years across CPUs, GPUs, pre-Broadcom, now Broadcom, and I really want to thank the team of just a really great collaboration, really great partnership over the years, and really everyone is very excited for the growth of this collaboration. So we are expanding our collaboration with VMware as part of the Private AI Foundation, announcing support for AMD Instinct GPUs. So let's talk about particularly the AMD box here, right? And for us, it starts with the ROCm software stack. If you aren't familiar, ROCm is our collection of tools and libraries we've built over the years to drive performance and features and optimizations for our GPUs. If you are familiar with ROCm, and it's been a few years or a few months or even a few weeks, I encourage you to take a second look, take a third look. We have invested a ton of resources to really make this a world-class software stack for our GPUs. Beyond that, we've also built several tools that really help streamline the deployment of those GPUs in your infrastructure, help you manage them, and well as bring out models and model optimizations. But we don't do this alone. As Himanshu mentioned, we believe in this open ecosystem. And so we work really closely with leading labs on all the key tools that are driving model development, driving the latest in generative AI. So we work across the ecosystem, make sure that we have compilers, libraries, tools, frameworks that are all optimized for AMD GPUs. And that helps enable a whole model ecosystem. And as you guys know, every day there's a new model that's driving new features, new capabilities, and we are excited to have day zero support for leading models coming out of world-class research labs. So, our philosophy has really been built on these strategic pillars. So first is, we're a hardware company. So it really starts with the hardware and making sure we have leadership, performance, and TCO. So we have some, I think what we think is the best GPUs, best hardware in the world, and I'll get into a bit more of that in the next slide. Also making sure that ease of adoption, ease of migration of those GPUs is as simple as possible. Make it as streamlined as adopt both on the hardware and the software side. Talked a lot about that openness, that commitment to openness, both our software as well as working with the ecosystem to make sure that this open source software that particularly drives generative AI is optimized for AMD. And we are obsessed about our customers. We want to make sure that we are listening to the customer needs, taking the feedback, and iterating on it. So always love to hear what customers are saying, what they need, and so appreciate all the feedback we get. So back in June, we launched our MI350 series GPUs. So this is based on our 4th generation CDNA architecture. It is a beast. It runs 20 petaflops of FP4 and FP6 compute. So that's a 4x better from the previous generation that we just announced the year before. And if you haven't been following our roadmap, we have been launching a new generation of GPUs on a yearly cadence. So we are growing and growing fast. And one of the really key features of our GPUs is our memory. And as you may know, particularly generative AI models are really, really memory hungry. So we have world-leading memory, 288 gigabytes of HBM3E memory. So what that helps is not only does that help you run larger models on a GPU, but it also helps you support more users. So for enterprise use cases, that means that you can really maximize the number of users on your GPU with potentially fewer GPUs. And it's all built on this UBB8, which is it's an OCP compliant industry standard form factor to make it easy to drop in and run onto your data centers. So a little bit more on that ecosystem collaboration. This has been a multi-year effort to really drive our partnership across really key tools, and this is a continuously growing list. So from PyTorch, which everyone uses today, Triton for compilers, Hugging Face, all the models in Hugging Face, or nearly all of them, are compatible out of the box on AMD. And now with this kind of new generation of serving platforms like VLLM, LLMD, SGLang, all of those also AMD is contributing and optimizing for Instinct GPUs. And as I mentioned, state-of-the-art models and this growing list of new tools and frameworks, which, as you guys know, is changing and growing every day. So another thing we announced is our next generation of ROCm software. It actually ROCm 7 hasn't been released yet, but it's coming, I think, this quarter. Lots of great new innovations, including our MI350 series support, growing enterprise capabilities, helping drive, simplify that management of that software. And in particular, really focusing on enterprise inference. So making sure that our GPUs are driving the highest performance of those inference capabilities for those latest models. So a whole suite of new features coming into ROCm 7. It's going to drive a ton of better performance, increased performance. I can't remember the exact stats, but software only performance improvements of many multiples from previous generations. So we're really excited about kind of where we are and where we're going, and I really invite you guys to come to me if you have any questions afterwards. We'd love to talk more. All right.
And so what we'll do now is we'll have Shobit come up and talk a little bit more about those 10 capabilities. But before we let you go, Nicola, we'd love to take a selfie with the audience here, because the people who left, I saw them and they missed out. So you guys gonna be stars on I guess LinkedIn. So I think we can clearly see the longest arm is right here. So yeah, we'll probably get the big the most of the room. So we'll see.
That's a good one.
All right. Cheers. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Nicola. Yep. Thanks, Himanshu. Thanks, Nicola. All right. Wonderful. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Waking up? Coffee still off? Or still going? All right. Good enough. We'll take that for a Wednesday morning, 10:30. So, like Himanshu and Nicola kind of shared, we're really excited about this partnership. I'm going to continue building more and innovating more in this space. So stay tuned. There's going to be more developments, more announcements in this space. But now let's jump in and talk about the 10 big things that we're doing in this space already, and the stuff that we're already delivering. All right. So like Himanshu was talking, right? We made the announcement to take private AI services, right? Our suite of services, bring it into VCF. So what that really does is it gives you one unified private cloud platform, right? On which to do your AI workloads, non-AI workloads, basically everything, right? And the big one here is built in a Kubernetes runtime into VCF. Kubernetes is now becoming, or pretty much standard now if you're trying to do a lot of the frameworks like PyTorch, TensorFlow, things like that. Those containerized, frameworks are a big part of how we do deployments in the AI space and, keep all the software and infrastructure part of your framework. So it is kind of necessary to have a Kubernetes runtime. And guess what? As part of this platform, Kubernetes is already built into it, right? So even though, we do obviously do the applications that are built on the VMs themselves, right? But the Kubernetes runtime is a necessary part. And that's really what we enable through ECF, because all the PyTorch, TensorFlow, all the other software frameworks is containerized and needed for deployments. Broad ecosystem. So we made the announcement of VMware Private AI about 2.5 years back or so at Explore 2023, 2 years actually exactly from today. And so as you can see, right, there's tons and tons of partners we already have in this space, right? And even before that announcement, for years already, we've been building up the partnerships and the ecosystem, and signing the contracts and making sure at an engineering and product level, we're extremely well integrated across all of these ecosystem partners. And if you look at the bottom, right? Obviously, everything runs on VCF, private cloud platform, and gives you privacy and security. And if you move up the stack, AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, Microsoft, we have massive partnerships with all of those folks, right? To kind of give you all the GPU and the software architecture that's required for doing private AI. And then all major OEMs are supported, right? From Dell, HP, Lenovo. All the major OEMs are supported for each one of these platforms, and we continue to harness more and keep even adding more OEMs as we go to this list. The next layer shows SHI, WWT, HCL. This is the software integrator, system integrator layer, and you see there's most major names are already on there. What we've added this cycle is SHI, Extrovert, ITQ. These are 3 new partners we've added, ITQ, Extrovert. You may folks in America may not have heard their names, but these Extrovert and ITQ are pretty big names out in the EMEA space, right? So, and we do a lot of work with them already. If you go to the layer on the top, Zenera is another addition to the platform. They've come out with some really cool technology, which basically give you AI at every application level and give you like a chatbot to be able to interact with, at the software layer itself for different platform portions inside VCF, right? And they're doing lots of deployments internally within VCF as well today. So more to follow on with Zenera. And then every major software framework platform that you may have encountered the name, guess what? We already have partnerships with them, right? So Kubeflow, Hugging Face obviously is a big one, right? With the open source community software, right? If I remember correctly, now it's running into like hundreds of thousands of models freely available for download there at this point, and that their community continues to grow. And on the top layer, basically all major models are supported, right? And this space is massive. Through Hugging Face, for example, we have hundreds of thousands of models we support, but there's NVIDIA specific foundation models. There's from Meta produces a bunch of models as well, like really, really popular. Llama is obviously the big one there. So all of those major models are supported. So this ecosystem will continue to grow, right? Any big names as they get established in this space, we will continue to expand that. So keep kind of following. If you keep following through this, you'll see more names as get added as we go forward with this. Performance, security, identity, right? So we covered the ecosystem aspect. We already have all major ecosystem partners as a space, right? So if you've got specific application needs, etc., that a specific vendor is there, there's a high likelihood we already have a partnership with them, right? But now let's get into the platform itself, right? So performance, security, identity. VMware Private AI, surprise, surprise, it's right in the name. Privacy and security is a big part of what this platform is all about, right? On premises only. And in this space, we build in security at the app and at the workload level, right? And at the network level, right? So at every level, at the workload level, we have capabilities like, secure boot, virtual TPM, vSphere. These capabilities have existed for a long time inside vSphere, and obviously vSphere being a part of VCF, all those capabilities come naturally to the platform. Similarly, identity access management for, major identity access management providers also supported. Then on the network side, microsegmentation, full stack networking, security, etc. There's some of these capabilities are already part of platform. Some come through some extra SKUs that you have to buy. But the thing is, when you buy the platform, you get a whole bunch of these capabilities already built in, right? Which is why VCF is such so great for the privacy and security element, right? That's the promise that VCF delivers, as well as Private AI services. Now they also deliver more of these capabilities. Now, on the left-hand side, so the DRS capability is our distributed resource scheduler. This is a very important capability. As your workloads and your deployments grow, there is always more and more adjustments of workloads needed, right? And it's all dynamic. So what that does is you have the right workloads on the right hosts, right? And so your cost-wise and the performance-wise, you always get best cost, right? So DRS is a really, really cool technology, right? Which gives you hot moving, and it all happens on the fly and it's dynamic. So the admin doesn't have to go in and say, hey, this workload's here, this workload's here. They have to interact together. Guess what? It's going to lead to some performance. This thing. The DRS will do that for you dynamically. It's a really, really cool capability. Moving on. Multi-tenancy and GPU as a service. So our cloud providers, even enterprise providers, right? They've always asked us, they want to be able to do AI deployment at a tenant level, right? If you think of like a college environment, for example, which is actually a live example. We have a pretty big university system who wanted to do deployment at a tenant level for different colleges inside the university in a non-multi-tenant kind of space or non-GPU as a service space. You would have to go do individual brand new deployments for every college. Painful, expensive, right? So what VCF 9.0 did is VCF 9.0 multi-tenancy is already built into the platform, right? So you have tenants, for example, at that university example I was talking about, a central IT department will have tenants tenant setup, basically university, the colleges will be tenants, right? And you set up private specific environments for each of those colleges. So the users inside each of those universities are now able to log in, right, and just see their data. They're not actually into the next college level, right? So that multi-tenancy is built into VCF and privacy and the VMware Private AI Foundation. What we've done is that we set up these deployments as a hot kind of a GPU as a service model, right? So a data scientist in one college is not going to be able to access the environment for a different college, right? So you have these hot GPUs available, right? You have an entire AI deployment that can happen at a college level, which is exactly what we're doing with that university system. Very massive, 100,000 plus students in that university system. Support for air-gapped environments. So a lot of our enterprises, government, public, etc., came up and requested this with VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. We did not have the capability prior to VCF 9.0 to do air-gapped environments. So if you can think about like a public space, a government, where air-gapping for your sensitive workloads is a very big deal. So what we did with VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA is, this is how the environment was set up prior to 9.0, VCF 9.0. There was automatic software calls happening when you're doing deployments. And as your data is changing, right, those calls were happening automatically, right? So admin did not have any control. And so the environment was going out to what we call the NGC catalog on NVIDIA GPU Cloud, which comes as part of the NVIDIA AI Enterprise subscription. And from there, you do automatic downloads of software and frameworks, etc. Now, with VCF 9.0, we work very hard with our NVIDIA team and our engineering teams work together to do a different way to architect this infrastructure. What it does is you basically take those safe software and frameworks from the NVIDIA GPU Cloud, you drop them into an on-premises repository. The infrastructure admin, on a scheduled basis or on a on-demand basis, it looks at those softwares and frameworks and then deploys them into their infrastructure. So completely basically separating that internet connection. And so the on-premises environment is now secluded, right? And the admin has full control over those repositories. GPU monitoring and vGPU profile visibility. GPUs, as we know, are very, very, very important commodity of any AI platform, right? GPUs can be expensive, and you want to be able to extract the maximum value out of your GPUs. And this is where we partnered with NVIDIA, and we came up with a bunch of these GPU monitoring and vGPU monitoring capabilities, where at the GPU level itself, we're making sure that your performance is highly optimized. So what does that mean? At a GPU level, what we've come up with is temperature controls. So there's a bunch of things that we already have been introducing in this space. So I'm just telling you some of the newer stuff. So GPU monitoring has temperature, performance, scaling, those kind of monitoring dashboards already set up with our partnership with NVIDIA. And what we've done with GPU monitoring is basically now, and vGPUs, we give you host, VM, and cluster level visibility for what's happening at the GPU level. So if, for example, there is a temperature increase in particular GPUs, what ends up happening there is performance starts to get degraded. So what we do is we set up like a performance threshold, after which the GPU performance will actually go at a much reduced level, instead of getting into a GPU burnout phase, right? So for example, if you keep increasing GPU, the workload on your GPU, at some point the GPU can completely fail, right? So your workload now goes down, right? So what we've done is there's a threshold we're set up, which sends a signal into your UI screen, which says your temperature is above the threshold that you wanted. Then, so at that point, the performance will get throttled off the word GPU. Right, so you have some time and a buffer to respond and say, hey, this GPU is getting overloaded. Maybe I need to move this workload elsewhere. Now, similarly, there's a GPU temperature shutdown as well. So if there is, let's say I'm going to make up a number here. Don't take those numbers the real numbers. Let's say it's 100 degrees. probably way more than that. But let's say that temperature goes to 120, we'll actually shut down the GPU at that point, right? Instead of burning up the GPU. Right, so those kind of very, very, very advanced capabilities, we keep adding to the platform. Similarly, vGPUs. vGPUs are technology that NVIDIA invented about 10, 12 years back or so, and right from the start, we partnered with them. So at a VM level, you can basically portions of the GPU and now dedicated to specific VMs. Now, what we've done is same way like we've done at the GPU level. Now you can monitor at the VM level what's happening to your vGPU. At a vGPU level, what's happening to your performance, scaling, temperature standpoint, right? And similarly, there's thresholds in there. You can reserve a vGPU at a specific amount of memory inside the GPU you can reserve for a specific vGPU, so it doesn't exceed that memory level. Again, because you want all your GPU to be performing at optimum performance for all specific VMs. There's memory usage, there is memory memory reservations as well, right? So you can reserve the memory as well as now you can monitor what's going on. Similarly, there's temperature as well there as well. So there's a whole bunch of capabilities there that we keep building in. Compute usage also you can measure, right? So if a VM is a vGPU is using too much of the compute of the GPU, you can even measure that. Right, so this is a continuous space that we're adding newer and newer capabilities in partnership with NVIDIA. vGPU profile visibility. This is an interesting one where admins used to give us continuous feedback that that vGPU monitoring was all manual, right? So basically you would say, let's say you cut out a GPU into 5 vGPUs. And at that point, what's happening and which particular applications are running, that was all manual. Like, so vGPU 1, vGPU 2, etc. It was all manual. So admins were telling us they were creating spreadsheets, and if your environment starts to grow really big, let's say you have 30, 40 GPUs, now your vGPUs can run in the hundreds, it's very tedious, right? So what we've done is through this new UI interface, all vGPUs across your entire GPU estate, you can just monitor, right? And basically eliminate all this manual tracking. Next one, model store. So now we get into some really, really cool capabilities we introduced with VCF 9.0, right? What we call actually this came last year. So AI is kind of in the state of what Kubernetes was last 10 years back or so. Everybody wanted to deploy it, kind of like a wild, wild west. Right, there was no real authentication, there was no security inbuilt. So what we've done through Model Store is a capability built through a capability called Harbor in vSphere. So basically what Harbor does is you're able to take specific workloads or frameworks and software and basically put it in this pot, so to speak. The infrastructure admin can now decide which model they want to deploy to their infrastructure, so establish a much more tighter boundary and control, right? So that's what we call the model store. Data indexing and retrieval service. So one of the key parts of deploying an AI platform, right, is the necessity of vectorizing your data. Chunking, vectorizing, and indexing your data. So what we've done with this capability is through your Google Drive, your OneDrive, if there's specific places you're storing your information, what we've given you the capability now is to set up a knowledge base and connect that knowledge base to different places from which you can actually just keep that knowledge base ready, right? And from there, you can take your data and now index and chunk and vectorize it. So it makes it much more easier, right, than to connect all these different data sources. Like data can exist in PDF, Excel, Word, chat, all of these different formats. And this capability makes it a lot simpler to be able to connect all these different data sources into this knowledge base, which now starts to pull in the information from all these sources. Now, world's great. You set up this, knowledge base. Well, literally 2 days later, you get tons more data, for whatever reason, right? Now you need to update it. So what this capability does is that on a regular basis, right, on-demand basis or on a scheduled basis. Now you can update your data knowledge bases, right, using this capability, so you don't actually have to worry about your data falling behind what's happening in the real world, so to speak, right? So just not even the setup, but even the regular maintenance of, getting more data, right, on a scheduled basis or an on-demand basis, this capability does both of those functions. API gateway, this is an important one. There's a ton of APIs required, right? Sometimes multiple APIs that can be required for different model endpoints, and depending on what it does is, what we've done is, and there's security as well, right? That's required from a model as well. Even though you may have brought in the model endpoint, you want to make sure that it's secure, right? So what this API gateway capability does is, it pulls like a centralized gateway for all of these different model endpoints, so you don't have to keep worrying about changes to different APIs. This model gateway basically makes it completely transparent to the user, the different APIs, and as the APIs are changing, right, as well. So that entire thing is abstracted for the different model endpoints. Model runtime. Sorry, let's get the build out. Yeah, there you go. Now, model endpoints have to be built, right, when you're actually doing a deployment for deployment of AI, right? Like, you cannot just take a model, right, and just deploy it and start running LLMs on it. An endpoint has to be created, and that can be a very manual process. And if, let's say, for example, there's 100,000 users, right? In theory, you would have to send up 100,000 different endpoints for each one of those users, right? Obviously, extremely inefficient. So what this capability does is, it gives you the ability to create model endpoints, put it on a central server, right, to get you maximum scalability and maximum efficiency, right? And admins tell us this, the manual way of doing this used to take them days and weeks sometimes to set up even one endpoint. All of that can be now done in minutes. Agent builder service, no conversation for AI ever happens without an AI agent, right? So now what we have is, as part of our VMware Private AI Foundation and the NVIDIA platform, we have the agent builder service built right into the platform itself. So you can take these LLMs, right, use the vectorized databases, take the model and data indexing and retrieval service, and deploy these AIs in an agentic format. So basically, think about all the different capabilities we just talked about: model store, data indexing and retrieval service, API gateway. This is really where all of it comes together, right? This is where it lands, and now you start building AI agents. If you look at the left-hand side on the UI screen itself, this capability is built right into the tool itself. Vector databases for RAG workflows. Again, no conversation for AI can never happen without RAG, right? Retrieval augmented generation requires a database, right, in which you're populating all your newer information so you can keep your information current. And that's really what this capability does for you. We provide it through PG Vector on PostgreSQL, right? So it's right built into the platform, makes it very, very easy to set up these RAG workflows. Future capabilities, this is the bonus section. I think I'm almost out of time. All right, so we'll run through this. There's a bunch of new things we're going to release in future releases as well. Multi-tenant models as a service, where basically the model runtime that I was just sharing about, now that you can centralize it across your entire organization, just have one runtime and have one model endpoint for one unique model endpoint for every single model, but not have to keep doing that across all your environments, right? So that's one. Similarly, Intelligent Assist, there's a new capability that we're going to offer in future, which is going to be an AI functionality inside VCF, right? So you can actually start querying in your databases for VCF ops, VCF automations, things like that, and solve issues quickly. MCP, this is a new platform. This is a new protocol for building AI agents and connecting them to different tools like Oracle databases, things like that. And so MCP is actually the biggest one as well. So, and there's a bunch of here. In the interest of time, I'm just going to leave you with this screen. There's a lot of capabilities here that we're launching with NVIDIA, right? Actually, Himanshu covered a bunch, most of these actually already, right? With the high-speed networking, RDMA, the support for Blackwell GPUs. And on the left-hand side, direct path enablement of GPUs. So there's a lot coming in this space. We'll continue to enhance this platform and our capabilities with NVIDIA on this. Use cases, GPUs, content generation, doc summarization, contact centers, agentic AI. This is where our platform does really well. Rush through this. Okay, last slide. So I'll just go through this one. Because of VCF, one centralized platform, right? The ability to do resource sharing, at a compute level, GPU level, networking level, storage level, right? You get the ability to have, optimized cost, right? And the speed and agility, right? You start small, and VCF is built for massive workloads. Whether you have an AI workload or you have a non-AI workload, VCF handles it all, right? So you don't have to go set up brand new environments for doing AI. And finally, this is why, from a TCO standpoint, we're 90% lower than public clouds, right? And we're up to 29% lower than bare metal environments, right? So it is the best platform you can have, VMware Private AI Foundation with India. And with this, I'll leave you with some resources, right? There's a barcode here. If this is interesting to you, you can get in touch with one of our specialists and start working on your environments. Thank you.